Every morning, without fail, the horse walks to the same old gate at the edge of the road. He moves with a slow, steady pace, his hooves pressing softly against the dirt path. Even when the sun is low and the sky is a soft orange, he reaches the gate first, standing silently as the world around him wakes. Birds flutter from tree to tree. The wind shifts the branches, and distant sounds of people preparing their day reach his ears. But he does not turn away. His eyes are always on the path that stretches beyond the gate, searching for a familiar shape, a figure that has not appeared for years. Some mornings, a slight breeze ruffles his menere, or a few leaves drift across the road, but he remains. The horse's presence is calm, steady, and unwavering. People passing by often stop to watch, whispering about how unusual it is for a horse to behave this way. They think he might be lost, or perhaps waiting for food. But anyone who knows horses well can see something deeper. This is not mere habit. This is memory, loyalty, and hope all wrapped together. No fence keeps him here, no rope binds him. He stands here because he remembers a man who once walked these paths beside him, a man who fed him, spoke to him softly, and shared quiet moments that felt like safety. Every detail of those days lingers in the horse's mind. The way the man's hand would brush the horse's neck, the soft tone in his voice, the gentle rhythm of footsteps along the road. And even though that man never returned, the horse's routine never wavered. The people who notice him sometimes try to guide him away, thinking it will be better for him to graze in a nearby field or return to the stable. But the horse always returns to the same spot. He crosses small streams, climbs soft hills, and passes fences. Yet every morning, without fail, he finds his way back. Travelers and neighbors have started calling him the waiting horse, though he does not understand the name. He is not aware of fame or story. All he knows is the promise he feels, the quiet hope that one day the familiar figure will appear at the end of the road. Years have passed, and the horse has aged. His coat has dulled slightly, and his movements are slower than they once were. But his determination has not faltered. Snow may fall, covering the ground in white silence. Rain can turn the dirt road to mud, making each step heavier, yet still he comes. Even the harsh summer sun, beating down with relentless heat, does not deter him. Season after season, year after year, his routine remains unbroken. The story of the man is simple but important. He was not famous or rich. He was a kind, quiet figure who understood the horse in ways few people could. He had his own life and responsibilities, but he always returned to the horse. Feeding him, brushing him, and speaking softly, he created a bond that needed no words. In those early days, the horse learned to trust him completely. It was a trust built slowly, on patience and kindness, rather than commands or fear. People in the village would often see the two together, walking slowly along the road, the horse following steps that felt natural and safe. And then, one day, the man did not return. Perhaps it was work, perhaps something more serious. But whatever the reason, he never came back. The horse waited, standing at the gate, sensing that something had changed, but still clinging to the hope that the familiar footsteps would appear, that the voice would call his name. At first, it was easy to mistake the waiting for habit. Some mornings, the horse would wander slightly, exploring nearby fields or moving to find water, only to return in the evening. But over days, weeks, and months, the pattern became clear. This was no ordinary routine. This was patience rooted in memory. Observers began to notice the change. They saw how the horse did not eat as eagerly as before, how his gaze lingered on the distant path for hours. People tried to explain, tried to convince themselves that it was a simple story of animal instinct. But anyone who paid attention could see something extraordinary. The horse's loyalty was unshakable. Rain came and went. Summer sun burned bright. Leaves turned red and fell, only to grow green again. Snow came, covering the road and the gate. Yet still, the horse arrived each morning. Years passed, and the villagers began to speak in hushed tones of the waiting horse, a silent symbol of loyalty and hope. Even though life around him moved on, the horse remained unchanged. Other animals came and went. Foals were born, older horses were sold, and new faces appeared in the village. But the waiting horse stayed. Occasionally, children would try to play near him, teasing him gently, hoping for a reaction. He would watch, his ears flicking slightly, but he never strayed far from the gate. Travelers passing through sometimes left food or water, but the horse did not graze freely, as though he already had everything he needed. He only needed to wait. Time became almost invisible in his life. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months, months into years. But the gate and the path beyond it were constant. His loyalty was patient, quiet, and unwavering. A quiet reminder of the bond he shared with a man who never returned. Then came the storm. One night, dark clouds gathered, and rain fell in heavy sheets. The wind howled through the trees, and the road turned slick with mud. For the first time in years, the horse did not stand at the gate for long. Something deep inside him stirred. He stepped onto the road, moving with purpose, his hooves slipping slightly on the wet surface. He followed an instinct he had not needed to trust before. The villagers watching from afar could not understand what was happening, only that this horse, who had waited patiently for so long, was moving differently, with determination and focus. It was as if he finally understood something that humans could not see. Perhaps he felt the absence of the man in a new way, sensing the truth of what had happened. Still, he did not panic, nor did he stray. He simply followed the path, guided by memory and intuition. Finally, the truth was revealed, though not in a dramatic or harsh way. The man had passed, quietly, away from the paths they once shared. There was no sudden return, no miraculous appearance. And yet, the horse did not stop. He had already understood in his own way. His loyalty, his hope, and his patience had been rewarded not with reunion, but with the recognition of what had been lost and the quiet acceptance of it. He lingered for a moment longer at the gate, gazing down the road that had once been shared, and then slowly turned. He walked, not with urgency, but with calm purpose, moving toward a new place, toward rest, toward a life that could continue even without the one he waited for. The villagers who witnessed it later spoke in awe, telling each other about the horse who had waited for years, who had never given up, and who had finally found peace. In the end, the horse's story became more than just about waiting. It was about loyalty, about love that does not fade even when the object of that love is gone. It was about patience, hope, and understanding. Through quiet actions, repeated over years, the horse taught a lesson that words could never capture. He reminded anyone who looked closely that loyalty and love are not measured by time or reward, but by consistency and heart. Every person who passed the gate could see the bond, the quiet memory of the man, and the strength of a horse who had known devotion in its purest form. The horse's journey, silent and patient, had carried a message that would linger long after the road and the gate faded from view.